With the Patriots season coming to a close on Sunday, we now shift our attention towards the 2021 draft. I'm Mariah, Janos, joined by Evan Lazar. Evan, the Patriots have the 15th overall pick. They're in need of help on both sides of the ball, but let's start with the offense, considering it's a literal cry for help. Who are some of the options for New England at 15?
It's a tricky one because at 15, you're kind of sitting in a spot where you're probably still going to get a pretty good player, but you sort of have to see how the first 14 picks go before you can really have a conversation honestly about who's going to be available at 15. We're going to talk a lot about this offseason: Kyle Pitts, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, certainly the quarterbacks at the top of the draft, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. Those guys, I think, are going to be difficult to come by for the Patriots at 15, and they might have to look into a trade up for some of those players. I think the one player that I do want to mention, though, because I think all those guys are guys that if the Patriots draft any one of those players in the first round, I think everybody should be okay with it, right? We shouldn't have any arguments if we are on April, whatever it is, towards the end of April, if the first round goes, the Patriots pick 15th, they hand in the card, and they read out Kyle Pitts. Nobody should be angry about it, right? So those guys we know are good. The one name I do want to mention that might be somebody that they could consider is Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech, who's a starting left tackle for Virginia Tech over the last 3 seasons. He's a guy that is extremely athletic, long, good weight to him. This isn't Isaiah Wynn. This is a tackle that checks every measurable box under the sun. So I think that the Patriots have a sneaky need at tackle in terms of long-term depth there, and maybe even starter depth in terms of what Isaiah Wynn brings to the table now long-term. And are we going to count on him being healthy at any point in his career for 16 full games? Darrisaw is a guy that I think the Patriots will be really interested in and going in a completely different direction with a 6'5", 315-pound tackle versus the undersized Win. Maybe that's something that could steady that position a little bit for them.
Right. And prior to this video, we have talked about what's needed to bring a quarterback to New England. And first, you got to get all the guys around him. So it wouldn't be a bad move there to forego grabbing a quarterback and go with that instead. Now, on the other side of the ball, defensively, who are you looking at?
Well, my dream scenario for the Patriots on the defense side of the ball, if they were to go defense with their first pick, and I know that will definitely lead to some people being very upset that they didn't pick one of these wide receivers or one of the quarterbacks, but if they do get into a situation where there are 4 quarterbacks potentially going off the board in the top 10, some of the defensive talent is going to fall down the board. Now, I don't know if Micah Parsons from Penn State's going to fall all the way down to 15. That might be a little bit egregious, but he would be my number 1 pick for the Patriots in the entire draft. I mean, a linebacker that can play off the line of scrimmage and on the line of scrimmage, has great range, great instincts, great open field tackling ability. I mean, pretty much everything the Patriots have been missing from the second level of their defense could be fixed with 1 pick if they can get Micah Parsons in the building. He's probably going to go a little bit higher than 15 and is going to be out of their range. The other name that I want you to look at is Patrick Surtain from Alabama, who is a press man coverage corner. He plays in a very similar system in Bama as what the Patriots do in their coverage system. And if the Patriots were to move on from Stephon Gilmore this offseason and trade Stephon Gilmore for a draft pick, I think it makes some sense to look at cornerback early on in the draft again, because are you going to trust J.C. Jackson based off what we've seen this season when Gilmore has been out of the lineup as that number 1 guy, or do you want to supplement J.C. Jackson with another big-time corner in Patrick Surtain, who's going to be a top 10 prospect on most people's boards? So there is a chance here, and again, they have as many holes on defense, I think, in a lot of ways as offense. They're just not as glaringly, problematic as the offensive needs. Defense, I think a lot of these guys are going to fall down the board a little bit because there are so many wide receivers. There are so many quarterbacks that are going to go in the top 10.
Now, it's interesting you bring up cornerback. Do you think that it would do more harm than good to have two not rookies, but 2 younger guys at corner next season rather than trading for an experienced corner?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest problem with the cornerback market that I see right now is that teams, for the most part, are not selling their big-time corners. You know, Jalen Ramsey moved a couple of years ago. Obviously, Stephon Gilmore moved in free agency, but there's not a ton of teams that kind of sell those guys at this point in the NFL calendar. So Maybe if somebody comes available in the veteran market, they would be interested in. But I really like Surtain for him. I mean, I watched him in that college football semifinal. You're going to see him in the college football championship on January 11th. This is a guy that plays corner exactly how the Patriots want it to be played. In a lot of ways, I see a young Gilmore in Patrick Surtain, and maybe the development might not go the same exact way to defensive player of the year status, but I think that Surtain's a really good player and would fit very nicely in the Patriot system.
All right, certainly something to watch out for in that championship game. For all of our Patriots coverage, head to clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Patriots Press Pass.